Hey guys, welcome back to my workbench and world of modeling. Dan here as always, and in this video we're going to be doing another exciting product review on not one, not two, not three, but four brand new Athearn Genesis GP38-2s. These are designated as GP38Ns. These are the new Union Pacific Lightning Bolt Schemes RC versions of these GP38-2s. I'm particularly excited about these because I've wanted some of these forever, and I actually didn't know Athearn was doing these until I recently got the announcement that these came out, checked them out, and I ended up purchasing a couple, and I'm really excited to go ahead and show them for you here. We got four locomotives to look at today, so it's a bit of a stretch, but I'll try to keep things moving as we take a look at these. I have not opened these out of the box beforehand here either, so I'll be checking these out as I go along. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into this exciting video, guys. So here they are, fresh out of the box, the brand new Union Pacific GP38-2Ns. You'll notice on the box these are not designated as Ns, but these rebuilds are. There's some interesting features behind these locomotives that we'll talk about, but we'll get to that in a second when we talk about the details of these engines. First and foremost, Athearn has released four of these, pretty standard for Genesis these days. They usually do about 4 paint schemes, and I went ahead and ordered all four from Lombard Hobbies. I paid $178 each for all the locomotives that you see here, and I believe it was about $20 shipping, but the shipping's not too crazy. Anyways, looking at all four paint schemes, they're all in the Lightning Bolt scheme here, in the fresh Union Pacific scheme. I have Unit 700, 563, 643, and 836. Here you can see the item numbers, everything else. Again, I really like the packaging on these. They come in the standard Athearn Genesis packing with the cardboard slip to keep everything protected. So we'll be going and opening these up in just a second, but first let's talk about some history of these locomotives. To give you guys a short rundown of what these are GP38Ns, and even though the boxes don't designate these as GP38Ns, that's what they actually are. These rebuilt units have basically been completely refurbished internally and externally. Everything internally is rebuilt, like I said. They received new paint jobs, new equipment internally for electrical, and then the RC equipment, which these are all RC locomotives. They all have the rotary beacons installed. Things like horns get replaced and relocated, and most notably these all have E-bells on these locomotives, as far as I know. So they're kind of an interesting take on the current phase right now that all these railroads are going on through, rebuilding and upgrading a lot of their older EMD power to go on for another couple years. So I really like this new take on these locomotives, so I'm really happy to have these. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into unboxing and taking a look at these locomotives. Getting to the unboxing portion of these locomotives, I'm only going to be showing one as a demonstration, but the process will be repeated for all four. And if there's any missing parts that are floating around in the box or anything like that, I'll let you guys know. But we're going to be doing a live unboxing at least on one. Here we have Union Pacific GP38N 700, and it is a non-dynamic unit, a really cool, pretty much standard version of these UP Jeeps. They have a lot of non-dynamic units. As you can see, standard Athearn Genesis packaging. They've started coming in these cardboard sleeves in the past couple of years, which I like. Protects the box. And you can see it's a nice exploded diagram label type, which I also like compared to the older Athearn labels where it was just basically a description. These are nice because as you're selecting these off hobby shop or train show shelves, you can quickly and easily see what engine you're getting and get a rough idea of what it is, so that's nice. Anyways, as we slide the locomotive out of the sleeve here, it's pretty much standard Athearn Genesis packaging, as you can see, nice and clean. And as we remove the lid carefully, I'm just going to kind of lift this up just like this, give it a little leverage. Usually these are pretty tight, which is fine. I'll set the lid aside, and as we look, we have the standard warranty information. We have another warranty card here. We have the Athearn newsletter information, and then we have an exploded parts diagram, which allows you to order parts if any are missing or not present on the model. You can always, of course, contact Athearn. And this also has like lubrication information, decoder information, all the kind of things like that you'll generally need. It should be worth noting that I did purchase the straight DC version, but these are all easily converting, can be converted to DCC is what I was trying to say. So as we remove the foam packaging, we have the locomotive here. Wow, that looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Oh my, this is getting exciting. Alright, as we open up the inside here, you can see in the interior, they actually come with waste retention tanks, which is nice because all of these locomotives in today's current service have waste retention tanks. This is another thing that UP in particular does on all their rebuilds. So you can see you have two different waste retention tank selections you can choose for your particular locomotive. So that's really nice. So we'll go ahead and set that aside. And as we remove the locomotive from the box, I'm going to do a quick inspection. Nothing floating around in the box. That's always a good sign. You always got to watch on especially the Genesis locomotives, because parts have a tendency to fall off and float around in the box. So let's go ahead and set that aside. Standard clamshell type box here. We're going to slide it out of its sleeve very carefully. We'll remove this tab here, and we will remove the top sleeve there. Oopsie. And we will carefully remove the locomotive from the interior. And again, I don't see any missing parts, so that's good. Go ahead and set that aside. And here she is, number 700, finally out of the box. First visual inspection here, looking pretty good. Okay, kind of a thing that I get annoyed with a lot of Athearns. You can see that the handrails are kind of bent. They're kind of popping out. Sort of a normal thing for these Athearn units. These handrails always pop off. But it's something you kind of got to watch out for. It is something that happens. Another little thing I want to point out right away, you can see that there are some details that are kind of a little bent up on the back, I'm afraid to report. It's a little annoying. But again, something you kind of got to expect with these locomotives out of the box. But let's not dwell on that too much right now. We'll come back to that. As long as they're still intact and on the model, I can fix it. But as we look around here, as a general inspection, things aren't looking too bad. The horn is a little bit bent, if you notice that. It's kind of crooked. So that's another kind of annoying thing. But looking at everything else, not too bad, not too bad. Nah, it's not really too annoyed by anything. You can see you got the large plow on the front. Not looking too bad. You can see on the handrails there are pretty straight. This one's a little bent. Front handrail's kind of crooked, as you can see, another common problem. Just as they're basically getting packed, they get beat up a lot, even as they're getting installed. So that's just something I want to point out. So a little discouraging to kind of see that at first here, but it's just something I'm going to have to kind of look out for now. But I'm going to go ahead and unbox all the others, and hopefully they're not as similar condition here. Well, here they are. All four of these beautiful locomotives are now unboxed. I've taken the foam off the handrails, and we're ready to actually inspect these models. So, upon what I said with the last locomotive that we unboxed, just kind of some common issues with these are that the handrails often kind of pop off. On the 643 over here, the one side railing popped off, but fortunately that's easy to just replace it and put it back on. But other than that, I'm not seeing any missing details or anything that's busted for the most part. I do got some things that will point out on certain locomotives, but for the most part these are looking good out of the box. But let's just go ahead and start the bulk portion of the review on these locomotives. Starting off with Unit 836 here, it is an RC GP38, and it is an older GP38-2 model. You can see it has the dual exhaust stacks. I believe this one might be an ex-Mopac or an MKT, which had the dual stacks, but this one is pretty cool in that sense. It's got the early grills as well, the early fans, which is neat. So it's an older locomotive, but as you can see, Athearn has done a wonderful job of putting all of the specific details on this locomotive. It's got really nicely detailed trucks, complete with the airlines. It's got all of the details like the speed recorder. It's got sanding lines. You got air filters. The fuel tank is the standard short fuel tank for these. The air tanks are nicely done. You can see you've got all the appropriate fuel tank details. Same with the rear truck. You got very nice details on the front pilot with the correct Union Pacific North Little Rock style snowplow. You have plow mounted ditch lights, coupler lift bars, MU receptacles outlets there. You have nicely done noses, and I'm very happy to see that Athearn is now doing these without the class lights. You can see I don't have to remove those on this model. They're actually completely removed on this from the factory, which is great because Athearn for a while was just leaving the class lights on all of their noses. But they've now corrected that. You can see you have nice separately applied grab irons on the nose, all kinds of really cool warning labels and details applied. You have the windshield wipers front and back. You have all the nice details on the cab, sunshades. You have the dual rotary beacons on the top there, the strobe beacons rather I should say. EOT antenna, you have a silver AC unit, tons of nice roof details with the separately applied lift rings which are nicely fine finally done, I should say. The dual exhaust stacks with the nice bolt detail. You have the new K3 horn mounted on the brass stand. The fans are in really good shape. You got the separate grab iron. The printing and painting on the sides look really nice. You can see you have all of the RC located decals there, which are pretty cool. And this one's nice as well because it's one of the later paint schemes where it has the Union Pacific wing style emblem compared to the shield. And again, this one has a cab interior with seats, control stand. It's got all kinds of cool little details, including the back panel detail as well. One little thing I'll point out that I don't like on the 836 here, one of the cab windows appears to have been busted out, so I'm going to have to at some point go in the cab and remove that and replace it. So that's kind of unfortunate, but something I should point out. Again, just a nice wealth of details. I love the printing and painting. The detail is very nice. On to Unit 563 here, probably the most unique out of all four of these locomotives. This is the only one that has a dynamic brake hatch here on the top. Again, pretty much the same. We have really nice truck detail. This is the late Blomberg truck. You got the speed recorder. You have all of the air filter details, the standard fuel tank with all of the appropriate piping. You have very nice detail on the rear truck as well. Wealth of nice details on the front with the correct Union Pacific North Little Rock style plow. It even includes the grab irons now. You have operating LED ditch lights on the front. You have the coupler lift bar, the drop step, the air hoses included, MU receptacles. You got the nicely done nose with the earlier paint scheme version where you have the shield compared to the wing emblem. Again, all of this is labeled for RC operation. As you can see, you have the bright orange warning labels on both ends of the locomotive, which is really cool. Again, really nice detailing with the sides. You got the wind deflector, you have sunshades, you have the operating strobe beacons, the horn is in the correct location, you got the EOT antenna, and then you have the AC unit. One little thing I wish these had was PTC antennas, because by now all of these would probably have the large PTC boxes behind the AC unit. This is a separate detail you can buy and install if you like, but if you're modeling these in the earlier era of say 2006, 2008 up to like 2010, these probably didn't have them. But it is something I kind of wish these had for more modern era, but it's alright, I'm not too worried about it. It has a very unique dynamic brake hatch here as well. It's actually got the hatch on the back, and then it has the dual stacks with the early fans, and then the large hatch as well with the late grill. Lots of really unique features on this one. This is another one of my favorites. Got the early grill and then early fans as well. A complement of nice details like the lift rings. Again, clean, crisp painting and printing all the way down the side. Now on the Union Pacific Lightning Bolt decal there, that blank where you see these yellow strips, that is prototypically correct. Those hatches are exposed, and it's actually a little slit separation in between the yellow reflective graphic. So that's not a defect on Athearn's part, that's actually prototypical. Now looking at Unit 700, the one that we had originally unboxed, you can see it has again a wealth of nice details. We have the late style truck. We have some really unique jacking pads installed on this where they're kind of on the corner. And you can see it's the late version where it has the late grills and late Q fans, which is pretty cool. It also has the extended porch here. That's the anti-climber, the late anti-climber. You have working LED ditch lights that are now pilot mounted, the correct appropriate handrails. You have the Union Pacific, what is this? This is the wing logo here on the front. MU cables, coupler lift bars. You got the McHenry style knuckle couplers, air hoses, the correct plow with the grab irons. Separately applied grab irons all throughout. You got the nice windshield wipers, really nicely done number boards, EOT antenna. You have the dual beacons, AC unit, GPS dome, and a wealth of other nice little details along the sill and the top. Again, all the warning labels are nicely done. They're very crisp. Great wealth of detail in the cab, operating cab windows, lift rings. You got the correct horn location here. Again, just a wealth of details on the underneath of the sill there, which I really like. And again, I love all of these warning labels and stuff. They did a really nice job. Comparing to prototype photos, these are all mostly correct. I actually like them quite a bit. You can see actually if you look closely on the cab, this is designated GP38N as a rebuild. And last but not least, we have Unit 643 GP38-2N here. Again, it's another late version, so you have the late grills, the late fan there, and then you have the late truck. As we look at it, you can see again on the front pilot a wealth of really nice details with the correct snowplow. You have the ditch lights, which are LED. You have the correct front anti-climber with the handrail. All that is really nicely done. You even have the cutouts in the pilot, which is pretty cool. I'm glad Athearn did that. The correct nose, separately applied grab irons, early Union Pacific Shield logo, nicely done number boards, correct air horn location, antenna, GPS dome, you got the beacons, separately applied grab irons, lift rings, you have the windshield wipers, all the nice cab details, including the operating cab windows, sunshades, all that is really nicely done. You have the correct battery box location, very nice truck detailing, underbody detailing, fuel tank detailing, and again, just a wealth of really nice little things with the warning labels done. They're all very nicely, pretty much very nicely printed. They're all pretty much eligible with magnification, which is pretty cool. Something I wanted to point out, you can see they actually modeled 2 replacement hinges, which was something I actually noticed when I originally looked at the prototype photos on this model, and they actually modeled that. That's really cool. So that's all nicely done. Again, I'm really happy with that so far. This one has the dual stack here, so just the 2. And then it's got the nicely done fans. A lot of these earlier Genesis models had these fans that were beaten up or the grill would be smashed in, but these are actually nicely done where they're nice and flat, they're not bent. That's a very good sign. Handrails look pretty good. They are slightly bent here and there, but simply pop those off, bend them a little bit, and you can just pop them back on, and that'll usually solve the problem. Another thing that I should mention with all of these locomotives, they have very nicely done tread plate detail. All along the flanks, the sides, the front, and end of the locomotive have that tread plate detail, which looks really nice. Looking at the rear of all 4 of these locomotives, they're all pretty similar in terms of detailing. All of these have the working rear ditch lights. They have MU cables. They have the separate air hose. They have the separate knuckle holders, coupler lift bars, MU receptacle stands there, as you can see. They all vary between the locomotives, but they're all pretty much the same, similar style of detail. They all have McHenry couplers. They all have the low Union Pacific number, where instead of basically numbering them in the number board area, they just paint over those and then stencil the number on the hood. So it pretty much eliminates any kind of working number on the rear where they would be illuminated originally. They're just blank now. But that is prototypically correct. I believe UP just cares to only have the front number boards lit or illuminated on these now. But overall, I really like the detail on all 4 of these. It all looks really nice. Now that I've pretty much sung all my praises for these locomotives, let's talk about some things that I'm not really too happy about. And it's things where you have busted coupler lift bars, for example. The ditch lights are crooked, things are bent, the hoses here look like they're about to pop off. You know, there's some little things like that. Also, the height difference on these brackets, where you can see one was installed low and one was installed high. That's kind of annoying. You'd think that they'd have a little bit better quality assurance on that instead of just randomly kind of putting them wherever they want. I think that's kind of annoying. You got stuff like grab irons are kind of bent here and there, stuff like that. The handrails are bent in certain cases, and others are busted off, which is annoying. And again, with Athearn railings, these are easily removable and detachable, and you can easily reinstall them. But when they're bent, it's really annoying because it just adds kind of an extra step of having to go on. And basically, when I have to fix these, I have to remove the entire handrail, straighten the stanchion, and then reinstall it, which risks chipping the paint off. So it's kind of one of those things. And then talking about chipping paint, it's kind of a expected thing. You can always expect that these handrails are going to be chipped. And out of the factory box, they are chipped up pretty good on the ends. Unfortunately, due to handling, that is something I should point out. Just some annoying things again to kind of point out. Here you can see the cab window is bent on my 836 here. It's actually pushed out and it popped out of the frame, so it's unopenable. So the only way I can fix this is to basically pop this cab off, get in there internally and try to remove that and just kind of straighten it. So, you know, it's just some minor gripes here and there, but overall there really isn't too much to complain about. I'm actually pretty satisfied with these. Overall, again, you know, you can see you have bent handrails here. This one's pretty bent in. It's going to take quite a bit of coaxing to get these straightened out, but it is doable. But it's just annoying things like that you got to kind of expect with Genesis, these kind of quality assurance issues where handrails get bent, beat up, horns are crooked, things like that. You know, stuff like that is pretty common, and for this price point it is a little annoying, especially once you're a modeler. You want to buy a locomotive and basically have it ready to go, and having to change all of these details and fix things like this is just kind of a headache that you got to deal with. Talking about the coupler height, it is kind of another issue that you got to expect on all of these locomotives, especially Genesis, just because of these couplers. The McHenry plastic couplers that I know a lot of people don't like generally will get bent in the box, and you can straighten these back out or replace them, but unfortunately for all 4 of these locomotives, none of the couplers were in alignment according to the standard gauge. Which is a little disappointing. It's something I'm going to have to go in and again fix on each one of these locomotives as I basically shop them and weather them. So it is something you kind of got to look out for. And whether you try to fix the coupler by bending it or adding shims, or you just replace them altogether, that's up to you. In this case, I'm going to probably keep these couplers and just straighten them back out and add shims where needed. Testing all 4 locomotives, they all seem to run really nice and quiet. Typical Athearn Genesis quality. In order to see the whole lighting on DC, I have to throttle the locomotive up quite a bit, but you can see those really nice LEDs in there. You can also see that the beacons are fully lit. Now on DCC, you can of course unlock all of these features, and you can of course have these strobe beacons programmed, but here you can see right out of the box, I do really like this lighting. It looks really nice. Also, the lighting works really well on the rear of all of these locomotives as well. I just tested all 4, and they all passed the quality test for me. So my eventual plan for all 4 of these locomotives will be to get DCC decoders installed in them, and of course for locomotives like these that have very specific lighting features like these beacons for example and the LED lighting, you really do want DCC to be able to enjoy the full features of the really nice lighting. Athearn has done a really good job recreating these. There are some quality issues with some of the ditch lights where they're kind of bent. You can fix them, but it is a little annoying. But again, I'm saying that with lighting features like this, really primarily to fully enjoy them, DCC really is the way to go. Even though these are DC and they are cheaper, eventually I will be putting decoders in them. So my thoughts on these 4 locomotives is that Athearn has done a pretty good job replicating a lot of the prototype specific details. I absolutely love the paint jobs, and I love the fact that these all have the RC beacons for modern RC operation. These locomotives are used on the main line too, which I will of course be using them for. I really love all the prototype specific details, like I said. Overall they did a good job. There are a few discrepancies and a few things that I could gripe about, like the handrails, you know, chipping paint here and there on the handrails, some detail parts being skewed, but at this point it's kind of what I've come to expect from Athearn Genesis, which is unfortunate, but it is things that you've got to keep in mind when purchasing new, especially when they're first production like this. You can always expect maybe some quality assurance issues here and there. Overall though, I've definitely seen worse, and these are not as bad as I've seen. Like I said, they're actually pretty good compared to some very bad detail discrepancies I've seen, even some other people have unfortunately experienced with Genesis. But overall, I have to congratulate Athearn here. They've come out with some very nice models, and I'm very excited to work on these and get these running for my model railroad. Well, there you have it, guys. There's my overview of all 4 of these brand new Union Pacific GP38-2s. I'm very happy with these locomotives out of the box, and I'm very excited to be able to start working on these, weathering them up, and detailing them for operation. You guys can, of course, stay tuned for videos of these when they're done. But for now, this will pretty much conclude this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.